Alright, I'm back. I'm going to show you how I'm making some venison tacos. So earlier we made the guacamole with the manual food processor, and now we're going to use a couple other instruments and we're going to make some delicious venison tacos. Now you can use ground beef. I just happen to have some deer meat that was given to us a little while back, and if you know, if you've noticed the price of ground beef going up, we're looking for different options and everything to fill our tacos with. And so I decided venison would be a really good choice. Now some people think that venison or deer meat is a little bit gamey. Obviously, you don't want to cover up all of the flavor of the deer meat, or else you might as well just use ground beef. You want some of that flavor to come out. But I understand we want to kind of mask the gaminess of it a little bit. And so if we flavor it well, it should come out really well. Some people are afraid to cook with deer meat, or maybe they don't like it, but it's actually a really good flavor. And if you treat it right and treat it with love, it'll come out really nice. Before I get started, though, on cooking the meat, I want to make some sour cream. Now you can buy sour cream, it's very easy. It's not like it's hard to come by, but when I was living in Bolivia, we had to make a lot of stuff from scratch, and sour cream was one of those things you just couldn't buy in the store. So I actually prefer the flavor of it. So I've got here just a little container of heavy cream that I'm going to put in this container. These containers from Pepper Chef are really great. They're silicone, so they don't break. They're freezer and fridge safe. They've got lids that you can pop on them, but I'm going to use this to put my sour cream in here. I can store it later as well. I really like that you can use these products to make what you're making and then store it someplace else. So I'm just going to put this heavy cream in here. Then all I'm going to have to do here is add just a little bit of vinegar. Now it doesn't matter which vinegar you use as long as it's a good vinegar. It just depends on what flavor. You can use red wine vinegar, you can use apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, rice vinegar. Any of it's going to be fine. Just the flavor is going to affect a little bit of how you use. I'm using apple cider vinegar because I like that. We're just going to put a dash of apple cider vinegar in there. And then I'm also going to add, grab this, I'm going to add half of a lemon. And you don't want to put too much lemon because you don't want the flavor of your sour cream to be necessarily lemony. Now I said earlier I really do like the flavor of lemon, or lime I mean, but sour cream you want it to be a little bit more fresh, not as tart. We just need the acid from this lime, so it's not really going to flavor it. It's just going to provide some of the acid there for it. Now we've got that. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to stir it a little bit, and it'll begin to thicken. And in a little bit, in about an hour or so, we'll have some thick, delicious sour cream. But I'm making this for tomorrow, so I'm going to set this aside and it'll be really good to go. Now see, I've got that covered and that's ready, and that'll continue to thicken while it's in the fridge. So let's go ahead and get our pan hot. So we're going to get this ready. While that pan is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and cut my onion. Now, one thing that you can do when you cut your onion is I peel mine first. I'll make sure I leave this part on here. And I do a couple slices one way, like that. Just cut into there. And then when I set it down, I can make a couple slices the other way. And really quickly, I've got some diced onion without having to do a lot of chopping. You know, when you cut onion, sometimes it makes your eyes water. I hate that feeling of my eyes watering and that kind of burn that you get. Everyone's talked about different types of tricks that you can do. Hold a match in your mouth, wear goggles, soak the onion. None of it's ever really worked for me. I just try to get through it as fast as possible and then keep going. So I've got my onion chopped up here, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of oil to the pan. We don't need a ton of oil. I'm just going to use spray oil. Just a little bit in there to help it set, and I'm going to toss my onion in here to start cooking. And it's okay if it's not totally up to heat. It'll come up a little bit later. We're not necessarily caramelizing the onion. We're just getting the onion cooked so it can flavor that meat. Now, I'm going to use this, I call them spoonulas because they're like a spoon. I got that word from Rachel Ray years and years and years ago. Kind of like a spatula and a spoon mixed together. But I really like this for when you're cooking something in a skillet. It's silicone, so it moves, it bends, it's really easy on your stuff. It's resistant to a lot of high temperatures. It's great because you can scoop around and grab all of those things that are in your pan that you want to be able to get and break it up and everything. So I really like using these. You can use a spatula, you can use a spoon, something that's hard, but I much prefer these. I always go to something like this, a spoonula, something that's silicone, something that's heat resistant that can get in there. And so we just want to get a good toast on these onions so that flavor starts to come out. We want it to start sweating so that when we put the meat in there, the meat will start to pick up that flavor. If you don't put let the onions cook for a little bit longer before you do it, then your meat's not really going to pick as much of that flavor up. And we are going to add a little bit more onion powder because I like that onion flavor. And so to get this going here, I love the smell of onion. The only thing better than the smell of onion is onion and bell pepper. But I'm not putting any bell pepper in this recipe yet. So just get these onions going. I don't want them to sit too long because I don't want them to caramelize yet. And we've got a fairly high heat, medium high going. I love this cooktop. I just had it installed not too long ago. It's induction. So some pans I can't use on it. I have to make sure it's a magnetic pan, but I love it. It comes to heat really fast. Boil water in no time. I love it. It was one of my, piece of onion got away. It was one of my things that I just really wanted, and well, that was part of my stimulus check. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was income tax. But yeah, we're trying to update little things with the house here by here, little by little. Alright, so the onion is starting to change color, starting to sweat a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add my ground venison. I'm going to pull it in with my hand so I don't get too much of that blood that's in there. Venison's really lean meat, really good for you. And will cook up really nicely. The thing I like about using really lean meats is you don't have to drain it at the end because usually the little bit of fat that's left is good fat. Your body needs a little bit of fat. I say that as a fat guy. I probably have too much fat, but you want your food to have some good flavor. And so I love that sound of it cooking there. I'm turning it down just a tidbit so it won't cook too fast and get away from me. And so we just want to mix this onion and venison so it can start kind of cooking and melding together. Now, I'm going to use a different tool that this is my first time using it. I'm really excited about it. Everyone's told me about it, how great it is. This is from Pampered Chef, and it's for getting your ground beef all mixed together, broken apart. And I think it's great because I know that when I have tacos or spaghetti or anything, I want that ground beef. I want the whatever ground meat I'm using. I want it to be broken down really well because when you have the bigger chunks, well, it just seems like the food doesn't go as far. And my kids, they're getting to that age where they like to eat. And when we make tacos, I have to just about serve the tacos myself because my kids will they'll put half a skillet of taco meat on their tortilla. And so, wow, this is really nice. I really like how this works. Because you spend there with this, just doing it, and you're breaking up a little bit by little bit, but that star on there, how it's divided, really separates that meat so you get really good texture, which is great. So you keep cooking this. Now that it's kind of starting to mix, we want to go ahead and put some seasoning in. And I'm just like with the guacamole, I'll post the recipe in a little bit so you can have that. I'm a Southern cook, so we don't generally, um, we don't usually measure things out. At least my family didn't. And so we just put a dash of this, a handful of that. But I'll try to do it as close as I can. So I've got some salt. I'm going to put some salt here. A little bit of onion powder just to make sure that it picks up that flavor. Probably about a teaspoon of that. Just a little bit because we already have onion in there. Cumin. You can't have taco meat without cumin. Now you can use the taco packets, but there's so many like preservatives and chemicals and stuff in it, and the flavor is just always the same. You want to like get a good balanced flavor in your tacos. Probably use about a teaspoon of that as well, and then another probably teaspoon of some chili powder. Just kind of sprinkle it on there. And I'm excited about this. I'm going to add this to it as well. This is the Pampered Chef Southwestern Seasoning Mix. It smells really good, so I'm going to add a good bit of this. Actually, I like the way this smells. I'm going to take that lid off instead of sprinkling. I'm going to put maybe a tablespoon in here, and then we'll balance it out afterwards when we taste it a little bit. So I added some seasonings there to get back to breaking this up. Now, like I said, when you cook with venison, when you cook with deer meat or any game meat, it has that gamey flavor. And so you want to make sure that you season it well. And I love, one thing I really like about using ground beef, ground venison, these darker meats, is that they're very forgiving. You can cook it a long time before it gets like that charred taste or burnt taste. And really, you can cook it a long time before, when you're cooking it like this, it doesn't even get hard or dry. It holds its juices in really well. Particularly when you don't have a lot of fat you have to drain out, and the juices from the onion and the seasonings and that sweat from the food that the food gives off, those liquids that it gives off, really give it a nice flavor. And you're able to incorporate that and mix it all together. It smells good. This is great. I always wondered how like Taco Bell got their meat so fine. I bet they have something like this that they use. That's great. I'm going to switch out a little bit though, just to make sure I get those onions off the side. And that manual processor that I showed you earlier with the guacamole, really, I'll put this recipe up there too if anybody's interested. Really good to make like homemade salsa, like if you have some salsa that you want to make really quick for something. I just bought some pre-made salsa for this. But if you like salsa on your tacos and you want something to, like my kids, they like salsa, but they don't like the chunky kind. They want it to be like thinner, I guess, so it'll stick on the tip. But it's really good. You just take a can of diced tomatoes and toss it in that manual processor. Add some cumin, some chopped onions, or you can just quarter the onions. They'll come apart while you're processing it. Or you can use onion powder, a clove of garlic, a little bit of cilantro, salt, and you just give it a couple whirls and you've got a really quick, easy salsa. I would use the canned tomatoes. If you want to use real tomatoes in there, you can do that. Peel them. A real quick hint for peeling is boil them for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then put them in some cold water, and then you can just pull the peeling of the tomato right off before you stick it in there. Because if you leave the peeling on, whenever you're if you leave that peeling on, it's going to give it kind of a gritty texture. I don't know if you ever put tomatoes in a blender or something with the peeling still on them. It leaves kind of a texture. So I'm going to turn this down. Our meat's pretty much done. I'm going to drop it down to a pretty low heat because our meat's done. And we're going to try the flavor of this a little bit. But I'm going to put just a little bit of broth. I like my taco meat to not be dry. I like it to be a little bit wet. And it's still got this juices from the onion. One of the things I like is, and I'm in my pajamas as you can see, but it's later, and I say if you're in your kitchen, cook happy and comfortably. Here's a spoon. So I like the beef bouillon that comes like this, where you spoon it out instead of like the cubes. The flavor is just so much better. I'll tell y'all which one this one is later. I'm just getting a dab of it because we don't need a ton. Just a little bit of it. Stick that in there. And I'm going to get just a little bit of liquid to put in here so that that can incorporate. And then we'll cook that. I'm going to raise this temperature up a bit. And then we'll just cook that liquid off as we mix it together. But, ooh, it smells so good. I have to get the kids up here to try it. I'm actually making this tonight for lunch tomorrow. It'll keep really well. I'm just going to stick it in the fridge. And that way we've got our guacamole. I'm going to make some quick salsa. And I'll get this together and we'll have that going. And there it goes, coming back up. That bouillon is about incorporated. Alrighty. Now, what I'm going to do, I like just a little bit of lime. Everything with lime. If you don't like lime, you don't have to put the lime in it. But that citrus, this is not going to, you're barely going to taste it, but that citrus will just kind of give a nice depth to the meat. It'll be really tasty. Alright, I'm going to turn that off. And our ground beef is done for our venison tacos. And just to kind of show you what one looks like, I'm going to prepare one for you. Or for me, actually. I'm going to try it because I think I'm going to like it. Let me grab a plate here. I like these small tacos. It makes it go further. There we go. Get a little bit of this on here. Grab my guacamole. Ashley and I went on a date a little earlier, and Cruz, my son, messaged me and asked if he could get into my guacamole. I said, hell no, I want it for tomorrow. So tacos are just so much better with guacamole. So put me a little guac on here, or a lot of guac because I really like the guac. We've already got our onions and everything in there. Got our tomato. Check on that cream, that sour cream. It's not set up yet, but I'm still going to put just a little bit on here. Go. And if you notice that your sour cream is not setting up quick enough, you can, ooh, it's looking pretty. It'll be perfect tomorrow. If you notice it's not setting up quick enough, you can add a little bit more vinegar. But this is so good. Just put a little bit of cream on there. Mexican style, Latino style. And this taco looks good. I'm going to try it. I didn't try the guac in front of you, but I'm going to try the taco. Man, that's really good. Like, really good. Actually. Ashley? Yeah? Come taste this. She gotta taste it. You gotta try this.
Okay. It's really good. Delicious.
Okay, well, I may have me a couple more before tomorrow, but this is our lunch tomorrow. So, thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoy it. I'll put the recipe for you.